We just gonna ignore the fact that these are giant robots versus regular-sized people, but we're putting them around the same power level? Is anybody else talking about that? Just me? Okay. Well, today we're gonna go ahead and talk about the leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime. But please hit that like button. So the Transformers update has finally gone live, and we have a ton of new content to go over. But today we're gonna be focusing on Optimus. Now, if we go ahead and look at his bio, we've got that classic Boy Scout backstory: smart, spirited, courageous, humble beginnings, and willing to put his life on the line. But the added bonus, this guy can transform into a truck. So, robots and trucks. I mean, what more could you possibly want? Now, moving on to his exclusive skill, we have 3 parts to his exclusive skill. Now, the first part happens for the first round. Now, when it says round, it doesn't mean you attack, enemy attacks, and then it's round 2. No, it means all 9 of your units have to attack first, and they get a 41% indestructible buff. Now, if this is anything like the component indestructible, that means they reduce crit damage by 41%. So, not a bad buff, but everybody kind of makes a joke that the invulnerability component is kind of useless. So for the first round, he gets that buff. Now the second round, so after 9 of your units have attacked, he switches to attack mode. And anytime one of your units attacks, any kind of unit, there's a chance that he'll launch a howitzer for 229.9% damage. A huge hit. Probably one of the biggest hits in the game. And it has a fairly high proc rate. While I was doing my testing, although it has been short, he's only been out for a short amount of time, I was getting anywhere between a 30 and 50% proc rate for this howitzer ability. So it happens fairly often, but it is only single target. Now, the third part of his ability only applies to army. Now, if any army unit was the one who triggered the howitzer, it'll disarm an enemy opponent for 1 round. What that means is that unit will not be able to attack, so it skips its next attack. However, this ability only applies on other commanders, so other players. So this doesn't work on PvE, so you can't use this to milk Sandtable by just making it so Sandtable can never attack. This is only a PvP ability. So those are the 3 portions of his abilities. Now, since he is labeled as an army hero, even though he is a somewhat universal hero because 2 of his 3 abilities apply on all types of units, I'm going to be looking at him from the scope of an army hero. So naturally, he's going to be strong against air. Now, the way that his exclusive ability is, since the first 9 attacks are just an invulnerability buff for 41%, I'm not hugely impressed with that. I mean, if someone's really milking their crits, that can make a difference. That can save you a lot of damage. But since you basically have to wait for 9 attacks, which means your opponent can get either 9 or 18 attacks against you, depending on how high your high rate of fire is compared to theirs, I would say Optimus is much better for PvE. Now, for his weaknesses, since I'm looking at him from the terms of an army hero and his third portion of his exclusive only applies to army, he's going to be weak to navy. And while his ability does help stop damage in the first round, since you have no offensive ability from him in the first round, I'm considering him a bit weak to burst heroes. So heroes that do a ton of damage up front, even though he might be able to reduce the damage, you're still going to be losing a lot of stacks and not dealing damage in return. So I think for quick fights and burst heroes, he may have a bit of a tough time. Now, his uses, since I've already kind of alluded to this, his uses, in my opinion, would be best for PvE. I think he would do phenomenal against things like the World Boss or Sandtable, which are single-target attacks. And since he already has a high proc rate with an incredible amount of damage, I think he can really hit those things to just taking it to another level. Now, as far as the pairings, if you wanted to pair him for a PvE setup, I would recommend someone like Katyusha, since she deals a ton of damage, or Amalia, for the same reason, since she's able to increase attack. If you do want to use him for PvP, I would recommend Bradley, being able to give yourself some survivability, getting through that first round. Putting invulnerability on top of Bradley's shield is just going to make it very difficult to get through all of your units. If you're short on orange heroes, I would recommend Ishitaru for his HP boost. But, of course, he's a bit tough to get since he's only available through events, so Rambo would be another reliable pick. Now, as far as his perks that I would have him equipped with, I would recommend him a little bit different than I do most of the time. Now, all unit attack and all unit HP, I think, are still a good way to go, but the next 2. Now, one way you could do it, if you were going to do PvP and you were using him for army like he was intended, I would recommend army attack and army HP. However, if you're going to use him for PvP, if you're going to use him for PvE, so the World Boss, where you have to use 2 types of units to take advantage of the explosions, or if you're going against the Sandtable, where you can only have 60 types of a unit, or 60 of each type of unit, so you end up using multiple units, I would actually give him 2 different types of attacks. So any of these 3, 2 of these 3, Air Force attack, Army attack, or Navy attack. Those would be the two. So he would have an all-unit HP boost, an all-unit attack boost, and then I would give him 2 attack boosts from other types of units that you use most often, especially if you were going to use him for PvE. Now, the skills I would recommend having him equipped with, since he deals damage, I would actually keep him on the offensive, especially if you do PvE. You're going to want his exclusive skill. Now, his exclusive skill increases the abilities of all the percentages of his ability except for the proc rate. So his exclusive equipable skill does not apply to the proc rate, but it does apply to all things. So invulnerability or the howitzer, those will be increased, but the proc rate won't be. So if you can get his exclusive skill, I would recommend that for the extra damage. Otherwise, I would put a common march size, a rare march size, a damage increase, and attack increase. But if you find yourself using him for PvP and you just can't seem to live through the battles, maybe throw a damage decrease or an HP increase in place of the common march size if you need that extra bit of survivability. Now, if you're looking on how to get him, the Transformers event is lasting for 2 weeks, and you can either purchase him outright for $20 or what is equivalent to the 1200 gem pack, or there is also a lucky treasure store where you can pay gems to get him. In my experience, I spend anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 gems to get a hero, but I have heard less, and of course, on that same token, on rare occasion, I have heard more. But usually, these guys are pretty cheap as far as gems go to get the new hero, so everybody should be able to get him. You've got 2 weeks to do it, and who knows if these guys are just like a one-time thing or if they will be available in the future. So I would recommend jumping on it while you still can. Let me know what you guys think of Optimus in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and visit my Discord, also in the description below. You can go ahead and vote on future hero spotlights. Got a bunch of helpful information, spreadsheets, or just a good, helpful community. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and join there. But as always, have a fantastic day.